So, as if it wouldn't be any worse, USC again, but it actually is worse. They have found themselves in another situation where, we've barely been told all of the secrets of USC. And so apparently, according to this article, there's a lot more that USC has not been revealing. So this is a commentary, but it is from an unnamed source. So it says, I'm a USC professor and I can't stay quiet about the school's administration's toxic culture. Okay, so this is by an Ariel J. Rose, and it goes on to say some real damning things about USC. And, as if we didn't hear enough bad information or enough bad scandal press coverage about USC. So the University of USC has been wrought by scandals and sexual abuse, admissions of fraud, and other matters in the recent years, more like recent weeks. So in October, let me go back up here to the date so you know that this is not something that is old. So this is November the 10th, 2021. So this is not good at all in regard to USC. So in October, a scandal broke at the USC again. This time it was allegations of drugging and sexual assault. Okay, so this was at a Sigma Nu fraternity house that the administration knew about for almost a month before warning other potential victims. Now, these are going to be incidences. This is aside from the incident with the Mark Ridley Thomas, and the other person that is involved in USC in some other deep issues that have come out more recently in recent weeks. And so this has to do with just the structure of USC, that they have a history for keeping their scandals concealed. But those skeletons are falling all out the closet. So during the long silence, another student reported another assault there. So if this doesn't sound familiar, it should. So this was in 2018 under the presidency of C.L. Max Nikias. The LA Times broke the story about a George. Now, I may not pronounce the names correctly. If you know the names, sorry if I messed up your name. So it's Tyndall, and it says a gynecologist. Okay, so George Tyndall, a gynecologist at the Student Health Center, was accused of assaulting female students for 3 decades, despite the numerous complaints from students and nurses, and despite an investigation by USC's title. It's in Roman numerals. Okay, office that found there was no there. Okay, and so USC let the doctor continue to treat the students. So accusations continued to grow, and the university eventually gave him a severance package and allowed him to leave quietly. And so that incident, you wonder what happened to that, and that's what happened. So he left quietly and they gave him severance pay. So that's how that went. So officials failed for years to alert medical authorities, police, and prosecutors. nor did they inform USC students or former patients. So the USC administrative actually appeared not to want to know the truth. Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of things that took place um, with that whole incident. Um, and so this is not good at all. So it says, you might ask, wasn't the ship righted? Okay, after that. So it goes on further to say that in the days after the LA Times had broke that story, in 2018, a group of 200 faculty members, they signed a letter demanding that Nakia step down. So I drafted the letter with a small group of my colleagues. And the next day, the Board of Trustees announced that it had hired a prestigious law firm to investigate the fiasco and that its reports would be made public. Okay, and so it goes on to, so here you see scenery from USC. It's a person or student riding a bicycle, a possible student riding a bicycle on the university campus. So Nikia's resigned at the end of the summer. The board also they promised to make public the reports of investigations of earlier administrative failures. So notably, the case 4 years ago of the medical school dean who had been addicted to methamphetamine and other drugs and had almost let his young girlfriend die in a hotel room of a drug overdose. And so that was something that people were not really aware of unless you are somebody that's affiliated with USC staff and you know some of these allegations that are alleged allegations that were concealed. So perhaps you won't be surprised to learn that reports about this allegation have not been made public. Well, now it is, unfortunately, which is another story that was left to be concealed until now, of course. And I think there's so much going on at USC, people are not even really surprised about the level of scandal that has taken place because it's now become a hotbed of scandal. It seems as, as we've heard of some unfolding events. So it says, once more, several of the administrative officials intimately involved in the moral and administrative failures remained on the job for more than a year. So I do believe that this story is so bad that, in this article, I guess there's so much interference in it. There's probably purposefully interference because the story is revealing a lot of negatives about USC that weren't made public. And so it says that meanwhile a new administrative had taken over USC, but the president, Carol Folt, of Provost Charles Chip Zukowski, kept up the pattern of secrecy, because they wanted to keep the school prestigious, and the denial in handling fallouts from a series of cases. So there's apparently a series of cases that went on at the University of Southern California. And so the involvement of several USC officials in an admissions cheating scandal was the one that we so famously heard about on the news. And the School of Social Work dean indicted for allegedly paying bribes to secure millions of dollars in LA County contracts. And a student health center doctor accused of assaulting young men. Now this is another story that people may not have been aware of. So in each case, the fallout and the cost will affect USC faculty, staff, and students for decades to come. So I hate the word scandal because it connotes something slightly salacious and even sexy. So the truth is that the ethical failures of USC administration, including cover-ups, have been tragic, not sexy. So yet this administration continues to cover up rather than come clean. So USC community needs the campus leaders to forthrightly admit mistakes, investigate failures, and make known the results of those investigations. So instead, we get distractions and euphemisms. So the noted ethical experts, McKinsey and Company, I believe, have been on campus for about 2 years advising the president on improving USC's culture, among the things. So yes, you read that right. And so the consultants known for their role in the opioids crises and immigrant detention facilities and for involvement in Enron. And if anybody knows about that, all you gotta do is look at the documentary of Enron in Netflix, and it is crazy. It's crazy. And the centerpiece of this effort, called USC's Culture Journey, consisted of surveys and focus groups to generate 6 phases or phrases, that is, to articulate USC's values, after which the university is hosting panels to talk about these so-called values. So those surveys and focus groups reveal that many constituencies on the campus, especially tenured faculty, felt alienated and outraged by failures of integrity and ethics, lack of openness, and imperial decision-making from the very top. And so the administration has persisted in treating this problem as a broad cultural one for which others are responsible. So in the meantime, USC has failed to fulfill even the minimal commitment that it made as a result of the legal settlement and that it reached in some of Tyndale's accusers, and a separate settlement in USC Department of Education Civil Rights Division as well. Both settlements require USC to agree to a series of best practices to inform its sexual assault prevention protocols on the campus. The university dragged its feet, and so and it has implemented only a few thus far. So the new administration, no longer new, could have used the crises as an opportunity, but even if it wanted to bury the past, it could have prepared for a better future by embracing reforms to make USC a standout campus with regard to the sexual assault and prevention. So instead, we don't even have a place where survivors can go after an assault for evidence collection with a rape kit. And so they have to drive to Santa Monica instead. So that brings us to the Sigma Nu. Members of USC community found out about the alleged rapes at the fraternity through a daily crime alert email from the Department of Public Safety on October 21st, weeks after the administration officials had been alerted. So the LA Times highlighted that disclosure and reported on the allegations, and after students began to protest, and the provost sent a letter to faculty and staff warning us not to make assumptions about organizations that use Greek letters in their names or live in the same area or residence where events may have occurred. So instead, he'd asked faculty and staff members to take responsibility for supporting our students in the face of sexual assault and violence. Again, euphemisms and denial are the order of the day. So my students, faculty, and staff colleagues are some of the best, most hardworking, and most ethical people I have ever known. Indeed, one of the silver linings for me in my involvement in protesting the university administration's actions over the last few years as the chair of the concerned faculty of USC has been getting to know them better. Okay. So, but the culture of USC administration is rotten from the top. What will it take for that to change? So that's basically the whole article about USC. So apparently USC is having a lot of trouble getting itself in order, and that didn't even really mention, I don't believe that even that article alone right there with some of the other things that had been mentioned didn't even talk about what's recently happening within recent weeks. So it has been a flurry of scandal lately, and it makes you wonder of the credibility of the institution. So with that being said, this is another report about USC and the secrets that it has under its guise of administration. And who knows what else is under there that hasn't been uncovered that is yet to be revealed.